energy projects and from an Alberta oil perspective would likely hold up approvals on resource and development projects. Recently, the Alberta Assembly of Treaty Chiefs rescinded a resolution that supported Bill C-69. Why? Indigenous groups such as the Indian Resource Council are concerned about the negative impacts that Bill C-69 will have on Indigenous economic development. Stephen Buffalo is with the Indian Resource Council, which is also a member of the Save Canadian Jobs Coalition. He joins us now by phone. Stephen, welcome to Radioactive.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
First off, tell us what is your biggest concern with Bill C-69?
Well, the part that we're having a problem with is really looking at our economic development that we've generated in the last, I'll say, 20 years. Some of the points in the bill point out, there's a standing committee test. If someone in Eastern Canada has a problem with something that happens here in the West, that they now can have a say and can delay the project possibly. The minister's veto. That poses a problem, and as well the issue of being able to negotiate prior to approval of a certain project, that really just cuts our legs out from, because that's where we have the most leverage, is prior to having negotiating privileges to have a say. So those are three of the areas, and then as well having a review committee put forth that will look at our economic impacts of a certain project. I think that needs to be implemented. So at the end of the day, we're looking at something here that will take us back a few years if this bill passes.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us any more specifics on how it would stifle Indigenous economic development overall?
Well, we've been combating poverty for probably over 150 years, and then we're forced into this Indian Act, and it, as growing up as a young man there, to me it was a norm. This is how it goes. This is what the government tells us to do, and then how can we be self-sufficient? How can we achieve sovereignty? Well, it's through economic development, and the energy industry has been probably the most beneficial for First Nations. Primarily here in Western Canada. We've now gone to equity partners. There's been partnerships formed. There's just better opportunities with the whole industry, and we've been able to not only sustain ourselves and then to kind of offset the lack of funding we get from the federal government, being on First Nation land. So, we can attack those issues of loss of language. We can attack the education issues. We can attack the quality of water, the housing. All of that stuff was, in our sights being a part of this industry. And there's now lately you see the price differential because there is no market access. And this bill, not even being passed yet, has played a major role in our communities that are starting to feel the pinch.
Now, initially, the Alberta Assembly of Treaty Chiefs supported the bill, then later rescinded that support. Can you explain why that happened?
Yeah, initially, I guess, when the bill was first passed, they said that there was 45 chiefs at the table and that they passed it unanimously. Now, so when I asked the board members of my board of directors, were you at that meeting? And they said, we didn't even know there was a meeting. And apparently they passed it on the third day when no one was there, and it was from what I understand, there was two proxies at the table, and they passed it on an unethical